Hello and welcome to Kaleidoscopic Realms here at Nottingham Castle. I'm Jennifer Gilbert and this is Christopher Samuel, and we're the co-curators of this exhibition. It features 8 artists working out of supported studios from across the UK. So in the first room we have Richard Hunt and Cameron Morgan. In the second room is Michelle Roberts, Leslie Thompson and James Gladwell. In the third room is Nana Kalu and Siddharth Gadier, and in the fourth room is Thompson Hall. And we just wanted to give you a little bit more of an overview about the show from our perspective, and also to talk about why we felt it was important to have this sort of exhibition in a contemporary art space. So let's talk about Kaleidoscopic Realms and it being born out of the project Shift. So I set Shift up in 2020 during lockdown and got some funding to make some films about learning disabled and neurodivergent artists in the UK. And the point of that for me was I was having conversations with you and other disabled artists during lockdown about how work is documented and the lack of recognition of disabled neurodivergent artists. So I wanted to make films to document the practice of artists and to kind of showcase how they work verbally and non-verbally, and the communication that their work does on their behalf a lot of the time. And so this exhibition felt really important to me because with the film I wanted them to be part of a bigger thing where people could see the artwork and learn about the artist's practice at the same time. So this opportunity came up with Nottingham Castle, and I invited you on board because I know you very well. I've done a lot of work with you. You haven't really had opportunities to curate things before, and I thought it'd be lovely to co-curate it with someone that's coming at it from a slightly different headspace. And also you're someone that does work about identity and representation and things, and so it felt really important to have you on board, to have your voice coming through as well.
Well, it was a pleasure, first of all, to be invited to co-curate. I think for me, one of the reasons that I wanted to work with you, obviously, but I think what stood out for me was about the importance of representation, and by that I mean disabled people seeing themselves reflected in spaces that are traditionally not spaces for them. And for me, it's important if you're not reflected in those spaces, that kind of says those spaces are not for you. But I think what we've done here is we put the artist's work at the forefront, and then everything else is secondary. You know, and I think we've curated something that's quite beautiful and engaging, regardless of who it is or if they've got a disability or not.
For me, the artist's voice is really important, and I think a lot of disabled artists and neurodivergent artists don't have that platform, and especially in contemporary art spaces. One of the things really important for me is diversifying what's shown in galleries and museums and trying to alter people's programming and looking at the gatekeepers and the curators and looking at who they program in these spaces, and it not always being people that have been through the art education system. And Thompson, who's in this exhibition, talks very clearly on that, and he says, you know, I haven't been to art school, but why is that important? Why is it important that, you know, I've got a degree, I research and then I do the work, so I'm still doing relevant things that other people have been to art school have done. I'm just doing it in my own way. Whereas when he looks at curators and what they're programming, it's like, oh, what art school have you been to? Or what degree have you got? What masters have you got? Who did you train under? Whereas these artists are creating incredible works intuitively without that kind of training behind them. And for me, that is the best art. It's really raw, it's beautiful, it's freedom of expression, and they're not being held back by anything.
But equally as well, I think what's important here is remove any labels. You put these works alongside established, well-known artists. These works can sit on their own, you know, on their own merit. I think curators, galleries, organizations need to take a leaf out of this kind of book and kind of think of ways to include artists who are, I feel, sidelined on the margins. Because I think as well, without lack of inclusion creates bad perceptions. Through this exhibition, I hope people who may not come into contact with people with disabilities or learning disabled, it will change their perception of what they think's possible or their lower expectation.
What we've tried to do with this exhibition is come and look at this incredible artwork. If you read more about the artists, you'll learn that they're part of Supported Studios, which is a massive network of studios in the UK that support artists that might not have been to art school, that need that little bit more support to get them to that next level. But also what was really important to us was access, and we really wanted to embed access in from the start, as well as including the artists within the decision making. So me and you went around the country, we met the artists in their studios, in their safe spaces to select the work where possible with the artists, which was amazing.
I think for me it was nice to see the artists in their studio and get a sense of how they create, but also how they're being supported, which is very critical for me. It's about, particularly my practice, it's about having autonomy and being empowered. It's a breath of fresh air. It's not what maybe people may think of as a day centre, a hospital room, you know, those type of, like a care home or whatever. It's not that. These are formidable, talented, confident artists.
Yeah.
But
and they're not just there to pass the time.
No.
They're there to be an artist, to grow their art practice, to become recognised as artists in their own right. And coming back to what I was saying about access, we really have tried to embed access in. It's something we're very passionate about. So there's lots of accessible ways you can access the information in the exhibition. There's British Sign Language, there's audio recordings, there's audio descriptions, there's large print labels, there's Braille. And it's not done in an add-on way. It's done as we've embedded it throughout. We've used symbols that people can recognise throughout the exhibition. It felt really important that that was considered.
It needs to be standard practice, because access is a broad spectrum.
It's not just ramps into buildings.
No, it's not just ramps, exactly. But also, it's doable.
It's doable, completely.
As we all know, for me personally, there's this culture of one size fits all when it comes to disabled access. And that's not the case. We're all different. I think finding a happy medium, making sure everyone's included, is the way forward. I would hope when people visit the exhibition, they leave with a sense, a change in perception of what's possible and how they view people with disabilities or learning disabled people in a positive way. And I think equally, I would hope that it helps shape the next generation coming up to have a different perception of disability.
When you were talking about representation and we were talking about the artists in these galleries learn disabled and being reflected back on themselves, it kind of also, they act as role models for younger people coming through these spaces and seeing these works and being like, you know, one day that could be me in these spaces. You know, they can have high ambitions for the future. And I think this exhibition, in my opinion, really allows that to be a possible thing, a possibility for them.
I think you're right, because if you look at all of the works, in my opinion, they're all very ambitious works. Like over the top, powerful, kind of impactful pieces of work that I know as a disabled person. And when I was younger, if I came to an exhibition and I saw works created by people with a disability, that would have changed my whole outlook on what's possible.
Exactly.